Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
I'm so happy to see you back again. I know that sometimes with the intake, there's a lot of questions and some that are a little bit more personal, and not everyone shows back up again. So I really appreciate you coming back. How are you feeling since the intake? Was that okay for you?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. Just still struggling in different areas, so I'm hoping to get some help throughout our time together.
Okay. Were there any questions on the intake that were a little bit more touchy for you or hit home on what your core issues are?
Definitely the substance use, I feel hits home a little more, and like the family history and how my my relationships are with family. That hit home a little bit more.
Well, then why don't we spend this session kind of going over some of those things? Does that sound okay for you? Okay. So which one of those do you think would be most beneficial to start with?
Maybe the substance use.
Okay, and refresh me again. Which substance? What's your substance of choice?
I've been drinking a lot lately.
Okay. All right, and then how long has that lasted, or when did that start for you?
It started about when I was 18, but it wasn't really like a huge problem until I started college, and then I feel like, I was a normal college kid for a while, and then it got out of control quickly, so I stopped, and then now I'm starting to drink again, just to kind of like ease my mood and, make me feel a little better.
Okay. So what, can you elaborate a little bit more on what mood you're talking about?
Yeah, I just feel like I don't have much motivation, and like I'm just really down all the time, so I just drink, and when I drink I feel like I have more motivation to do things, and I'm more outgoing and just have a better life, I guess, when I'm drinking.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, the motivation to drink is just to make you feel like does it make you feel like how you did before you started feeling like these depressed moods? So it makes you kind of feel back to normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not trying to go above that. You just want to feel like a normal functioning person. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did these low motivation and like depressive symptoms start for you?
Probably about 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you still in college?
Yeah, currently I am.
Okay. All right. Are you aware of how this started? Was there any kind of catalyst into?
Well, I started college about 4 months ago, and I'm working full-time and full-time parent, wife, so it's just really overwhelming.
And that's when your depression started to hit. Okay. So you're saying that do you feel like it's because you have a lot on your plate, or are there more things than that going on?
Yeah, I think that, I have a lot on my plate, and then a lot of times I feel like there's a lot expected of me, and I can't fulfill all the roles that I feel like I should. So I'm struggling with that.
Okay. So you said I can't fulfill everything. Is that a reoccurrent thought that you'll have throughout this process? Is that something that you think a lot?
Like I can't do this, so when I drink, I don't feel as much of like I'm failing people or.
So not so much pressure.
Yeah.
Kind of takes the pressure off for you.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So how much do you typically drink? Do you drink every day? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. About how much?
I'll drink at least a bottle of wine every day.
Okay. What time do you start drinking?
It just depends. So if I'm not working, I'll start in the morning and just drink throughout the day. On those days, I tend to drink a little more than just a bottle.
Because you have more time.
Yeah. And then on other days when I am working, I'll start when I get home, and then the bottle will be gone by the time I go to bed.
Okay. When you drink, can you kind of tell me how that feels? Do you ever get to the point where you can't remember things? Or do you always kind of try to hit the same consistency?
On the days where I know, like, that I have to work and that it's later when I start, I don't tend to, like, have any blackouts or anything like that. But on days where I'm off and I'm drinking consistently throughout the day, I tend to black out and not remember things towards the evening.
And you said that you work and you have a family, and so you're a mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Is your son ever with you when you are home all day long?
No, I'll usually bring him to daycare and then I'll text his dad and tell him that he needs to go pick him up because I can't drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what, and you also said you wanted to talk about family history. Does that at all tie into your drinking or how you're feeling with these last 4 months? Does any of that kind of have anything to do with it?
Well, I know that like there's a long history of substance abuse in my family. Like I have a lot of people who have gone to rehab in the past and like have just drank themselves to death or whatever. And I know that it just scares me that I'm going to be that way.
Okay. So not really so much family turmoil between you and any members right now.
Right. Well, there's some between me and my husband.
Oh, okay. Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, so he feels like I'm putting a lot more pressure on him because I'm not fulfilling things that I need to, and I'm not helping him as much as what he would like, I guess.
Okay. So you said that you will drink to help you be motivated, but then it sounds like your husband's saying he's not seeing it that way. So are you actually being able to get things done when you drink, or is it just kind of making you feel less pressured?
I think it's making me feel less pressured.
Okay.
Because I know days I do drink throughout the day, I don't do a whole lot when I get home, and I don't do the bedtime routine with our son, and he'll have to step in and, pick up those areas.
Okay. And so how does that make you feel, knowing that it's kind of not doing, like your drinking's really not fulfilling the main purpose that you started with? How does that feel?
It kind of feels like exhausting because I don't know how to get myself to fulfill these different roles and how to feel okay about myself doing it.
Okay, so in this type of situation, if everything kind of stayed the way it was, what's kind of the worst case scenario with all of this?
That I lose my family, like my husband leaves, and I know he would take our son with him, and then I would be by myself, and I know it would just spiral out of control even more.
Has he ever said anything about doing any of that?
Not until here recently. He's started mentioning, like, if this doesn't change, I'm going to think about leaving. I mean, this isn't a healthy environment, so.
Has that made your drinking less, or has it actually made it worse since he said those types of things?
At first I tried to drink less, but I started like getting really shaky and I just didn't feel very well, so I just thought maybe if I hid it a little better that he wouldn't know, so I just tried to sneak here and there, but he says he'll accuse me of drinking and I try to say I'm not, but I know he can smell it.
And that just brings more turmoil into your relationship. That must be really, really hard, because you said that you've tried your best to not drink anymore and kind of do what he's asked of you, and it made you feel sick and it didn't really go that well. So I'm sure that was kind of discouraging for you.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I just feel like it's a no-win at this point. I mean, he wants me to do all of these things, but I feel like that's a lot of pressure on me. But then if I drink and I'm not doing it, he feels all that pressure I was feeling.
So with everything that's on your plate, do you think that it's all realistic for you to complete all at the same time? Do you think it's a possibility?
I thought so at first, but now I'm kind of questioning if I can do all of it.
Okay. So what sort of things, if we had to rank the least important to the most important things that are on this list, how would that rank kind of go? What's at the top and then work your way down?
I think most definitely my family would be at the top, and then probably school and work.
Okay. And for you, is it possible to let any of those go? To kind of lessen the load?
Right. Maybe not fully. I mean, maybe I could go down part-time at work or something and see if we could swing that.
Okay. So then maybe that's something we can discuss as we go. Okay, so then let me ask you the opposite. So you've already kind of discussed the worst case scenario. What would be the best case scenario for you? What is like the ultimate goal out of all of this?
If I could finish school and, find the job that I've been looking for and be a good mom and be able to drink successfully, I guess, not have to worry about like waking up with the shakes and feeling sick and all of that.
So at this time, you don't want to completely stop drinking?
I mean, it's just hard for me to imagine going my whole life without taking another drink.
Okay. Well, and that's something that we can work towards as well. But I appreciate you telling me this ultimate goal, because sometimes that can help us start creating goals for in therapy. And it kind of helps me figure out where you want to go, because I don't want to set goals for you. I want you to kind of, because you know your life better than I know your life. And I want you to feel like this is a collaborative process between the both of us. I want you to feel like you get to have a say in what you want and what's most important for you. So you said that you want to be able to get done with school. How much longer do you have school?
I think about 1.5 years.
Okay, so that's definitely a more long-term goal. And then after you're done with school, that's when you want to get a job that you'll stick with.
Definitely.
Okay. And what type of job are you wanting to have after all of this?
I'm going to be a nurse.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, then that's going to be wonderful once we get to that step. But I also, because long-term goals can seem kind of daunting, and I'm sure you've experienced this. It seems so far away, and you have to do so many things to get there. Sometimes it's better to break those down into more manageable goals that we can work on each week. So since you are going to be seeing me weekly, if that's fine with you, I would like to try to make a goal each week. So that way you can kind of feel that sense of empowerment that you're making progress. Because it sounds like lately you've just been trying to accomplish things, but you're not really able to satisfy anybody. Is that kind of how it's been?
Yeah, I feel like no one's happy with me because I feel like work's not going well, I'm not being the best mom I could be, and then school's slipping too, so I just feel like I'm pulled in every different direction.
Yeah, so everyone's just kind of having these expectations, and and then what kind of expectations do you have of yourself with all of these?
Yeah, so I just want to I want to be the best mom possible, and I want to be a good wife, and then I want to try to achieve all A's in school, but that's been a little difficult. And then at work I just want to be the best person I can be for the people I work with.
So it sounds like you're trying to give 100% in everything. That's kind of your expectation. Is that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the expectation is if you don't give 100% in all of these, then you're slipping and you're failing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be considered probably one of your automatic thoughts that you automatically have, where I need to do 100%, so have all A's, or be a great wife, a great mom, or I'm not doing what I need to do.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes with expectations like that, there's very little wiggle room, right?
Yeah.
So there's very little ways that you can set back a little bit and it still be acceptable in your own mind. So sometimes that can be putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Do you feel like it's kind of been like that for you?
Yeah, I definitely do feel a lot of pressure, and I feel really overwhelmed a lot of times. I mean, I just got one of my grades dropped to an A-, and it just
makes you nervous.
Yeah, it made me really nervous because I'm like, well, my goal here is all A's, and I'm getting really close to a B, and I just feel like that's not acceptable.
Okay. And have you always kind of had these types of expectations for the things that you do? Can you pinpoint when that started?
As a kid in school, I feel like it had already started. Anytime I wasn't number one in the class or like top 5 in the class, I was really just hard on myself and really felt like I'm not giving everything my all.
Okay, so it was more so you felt like if there was a setback, it was 100% your fault. Like it always had to do with something you'd done for it to happen that way.
Yeah, and I feel like I was just disappointing people if I didn't, you know, give it that 100%.
Okay, and that made you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I think maybe what we can do, our goal for next week, maybe we could kind of think about ways that we can alter the way that the expectations you have for yourself a little bit. So not necessarily that you have to stop giving your 100%, because, you know, I think it's good that if you give your best to everything. But I do want you, and what might be helpful for you is to allow yourself to be okay with if you can't do that.
Right.
You know, because if you're given 100% as a wife, you're given 100% as a mom, as an employee, and as a student all the time, and you're not getting a break from that, that's 400%.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to put on yourself by yourself, you know, and if you even do 399%, that's okay, you know. But I want you to be able to get to the point where you feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
So, that's a long process.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to think this is an overnight thing. We're kind of rewiring how you think about things.
Okay.
It's kind of the big goal to kind of help you have nicer thoughts about yourself, and then maybe your behaviors will change after that.
Right.
Okay. So what kind of things do you think that we could work on? What kind of thoughts do you think we could try to start changing a little bit?
Maybe like the thought of like being a bad mom or being a bad student or employee.
Okay. Right. So what kind of situations, we'll go with the first one you said, being a mom. What types of things happen that make you feel and make you think I'm a bad mom?
Like if I only spend like a certain amount of time with him in a day, like if I was supposed to be somewhere else and then maybe he was asleep by the time I got home, it makes me feel like I'm a bad mom.
Okay. So you would feel like a better mom if you got to spend more time with him. Okay. How realistic is that?
I mean, it's realistic some days, but some days work just demands a lot more of my time.
And are you patient with yourself on the days that your work demands more time, or do you automatically feel bad?
I feel bad because then I'm thinking of him and I'm not focusing on what I should be at work, so then I feel like I'm just not giving much of myself at either place.
Okay, so it's hard to detach
Yeah.
from other things when you're trying to focus on one thing. It all just kind of comes with you. Okay. Well, and as a mom, I realize once you become a mom, you never detach from that.
Yeah.
So I feel for you with that 100%. I know that even if you're at work, you can't stop thinking about your kids, you know, and you always want to be able to spend as much time as you can with your kids. But what I think would be helpful is for you to not be upset with yourself about things you cannot control. Because really, maybe one way we can shift it is you're at work to support him. So really that's being a good mom. Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a flip. So it's not that you don't get to recognize how you're feeling, because you can always feel like, oh, I love my child, I want to be with my child. That's not negative, right? It's just when you automatically go to, I'm a bad mom because I'm at work and I'm not with him. That doesn't really go anywhere that will benefit you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So how can we shift that from when you automatically think you're a bad mom? What else could you say to yourself when you start feeling that way?
I could just like say some of the things that I've done that are really helpful for him.
Perfect. Okay, so what are some of those things?
Like you know, I'm able to give him food
Mm-hmm.
and he's well taken care of. And,
Yeah.
you know, I do spend a lot of time with him, like on days where I don't have to be at work as long, or
Mm-hmm.
on the weekends we do a lot together. So,
Perfect. Okay. Well, this brings me to an idea. I want to give you a journal.
okay.
Pretend I'm giving you a journal. So what I want to do, and this is a perfect place to start. So on this page, why don't you go ahead and write on top the at work.
Okay.
And yeah, you can do that. And then what we want to do is and then put your automatic thought of I'm a bad mom because I'm at work. Okay, and then I want you to write down all of those examples that you just
Okay.
gave me of things that you can counteract this main thought.
Okay. So he's well taken care of.
Mhm.
He has food. I spend time with him other days.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay. So a kind of goal with this journaling is when you start to feel like I'm a bad mom,
Mhm.
this can kind of be nice for you to flip to
Mhm.
because sometimes it's hard to think about all those things in your
Right.
head by yourself. So if you look at this and you
Mhm.
see, okay, these are the things I could be saying to myself
Right.
instead, that might be more productive. It might be
Yeah.
nicer to myself.
Mhm.
You might feel a little bit better.
Okay.
So in this situation, do you feel comfortable doing that, like
Yeah.
outside of our sessions?
Yeah,
It's kind of
definitely.
like I'm talking in your head,
Mhm.
right? So when
Yeah.
you feel like I'm a bad mom, you can look at this and be like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what we talked about. I'm gonna
Right.
work this into my life and make it a habit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do
So
that.
let's try another situation. So let's do school.
Mhm.
What's a automatic thought that you have with school that's more negative?
If I don't get the best on a paper, then I'm not doing very well.
Okay. So I'm a bad student.
Mhm.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and write that down? What are some ways that we can combat that?
That I mean I'm doing my best,
Okay,
and
good.
doesn't mean it's bad.
Yes,
I don't get an A+ on everything.
perfect. Okay, great.
Okay.
And then also I want you to think, is it the end of the world if you don't get an A+?
No,
Does
No.
that much really change?
not really.
Okay, so it's really, there's not a whole lot of reality
Mhm.
in the I'm a bad student
Right.
because of that, right? And I know that that's hard to think right away because, again, I want you to be able to give your 100% and I want you to give your all. But giving 100% doesn't always mean that you have to see
Right.
100%.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't always mean that you can't make a mistake here and there while you're giving your 100%.
Right.
Because that's the only way that you learn anyway.
Mhm.
So I kind of just want you to think, as you're saying these to yourself, I'm learning something each time I might be messing up.
Okay.
And I'm getting better each
Mhm.
time. And, you know, because you're not going to be perfect at
Right.
anything right away. So this is kind of just a way that you can be supportive to yourself
Mhm.
if no one else can be there to help you.
Right.
If I can't be there, if you're going through a
Mhm.
really hard time, you're feeling a lot of negative thoughts, you can kind of revert back to this and be
Mhm.
like, okay, what's the reality of this
Mhm.
situation?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let's see. Now you want to try the one with being a wife?
Mhm.
Okay. So what are some things that you think with that?
That I don't see him as much as I'd like, so I'm a bad wife.
Okay. Why don't you go
Mhm.
ahead and write that down?
Okay.
And then what are some things that you do that kind of contradict that?
You know, I come home and I make supper a lot of nights, so
Mm-hmm.
do that, and then we do talk and have fun. We'll have date nights every now and again. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So, and then what are some of the things that make you feel like you are a bad mom or a bad wife?
Sometimes he just, and it's more so when I'm drinking, he'll
Okay.
tell me like, I don't understand why you can't help more, or I don't understand why you're not giving us your full attention when you're here.
Right. Okay. So does he not drink?
No,
He doesn't do any of that. Okay. Has he ever had an issue with that in the past?
No.
No. Okay. So this is kind of foreign to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever had conversations with him explaining?
Yeah, and he just thinks that it's, something that I should just be able to sit down and not do anymore, and, it shouldn't be that big of a problem, and my love for him and my son should outweigh what the alcohol does.
Okay. Well, so for this situation, do you think it would ever be beneficial for you to have him come in a session with you sometime?
I think so.
Okay. We don't have to do that anytime soon. Just kind of in the future, if we ever want to address that, it might be kind of helpful to have him come in, since he doesn't know a whole lot about the situation. Maybe we could talk together about some of the things that we can do to kind of get you guys both on the same page, and just have like an open discussion. Because it sounds like right now you've done a lot of defending yourself, and he's done a lot of pointing the finger at you, and you haven't really been heard, and he might not be either.
Right, and he might listen a little bit more if it's you.
And if I can just give him a little bit of information, not necessarily like taking you off the hook or anything.
Right.
Because, in a relationship, everyone does things that can be toxic at times.
Yeah.
But just to kind of put you guys on a fair playing field of where we can be productive again.
Yeah.
So everything we're trying to do in here is just to be more productive. Okay. So I was just throwing that out there. I wanted to see how you felt about that, and we can plan that as we go.
Okay.
That probably wouldn't. I probably want to address some things with you first, and then you can talk to him if you want to. You can. That could be another kind of goal for this week, to just kind of throw that out there to him.
Yeah.
And see, because I don't want you to throw it on him like, hey, next week we need to go see my counselor. So maybe you can kind of just discuss with him how he feels about that, and next week you can let me know what he says. Okay.
I can do that.
All right, perfect. So we kind of started the journal, and kind of given you these little mantras that you can tell yourself for the main issues that you've been having. I also want to tell you, with this journal, you can use it for more than that if you want. So if there's ever a time where you're just feeling sad, so you said that you've been not so motivated, just kind of having a hard time, feeling more low, this could be a nice outlet. Have you ever tried writing before?
No.
Okay. So this may or may not work. Don't feel like if it doesn't, that's a big problem, because it's not. Some people really like it. Sometimes it's an outlet for them, and then sometimes it just doesn't work that well, and it's just like, okay, well, all I did was write it down. So that's fine. I want it to be a tool for you if you want it to be.
Okay.
So just know that you can feel free, and you can share it with me, or you don't have to.
Okay.
So that's also up to you. You can tear out the pages if you want and keep them for yourself. You can write like little notes to yourself to make you feel a little bit better, or you can write out like how your day went and then bring it into me, and we can just use a session to discuss that.
Okay.
So it kind of just depends on how your week goes, how your life goes. If there's anything you want to jot down that you want to make sure we talk about in counseling, you use this however you want to.
Okay.
Okay?
I can do that.
Perfect. So that's going to be, I like journaling in my counseling. I like to not necessarily give you homework, because I know with someone who wants to give 100, I don't want you to feel bad if you don't do something, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily homework, it's just a tool.
Okay.
It's kind of like a coping tool to use for yourself.
Okay.
So when you do this, it might help you if you jot down how you feel to not drink eventually. Okay, so this could be a different way to cope with how you're feeling, rather than pick up a glass of wine.
Okay.
Does that kind of sound like a good ultimate goal?
Yeah,
eventually?
definitely.
Okay. So we said for next week we want to try to talk to your husband. And then we also want to try this journaling thing.
Yeah.
And kind of see how it goes, and see if it makes you feel any better. Okay. Are there any other goals that you want to work on for next week, or do you think that that's plenty? Because I don't want to put too much on your plate either.
Right. I guess maybe that's plenty. I don't know.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. So we still have quite a bit of time left. So so long. How much time do we still have? We still got like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. No, but
Oh, plus side you're doing well.
Oh Lord!
Yeah, he ain't gonna watch all.
No, I was saying I'm not gonna even come close to where this is happening. It's just funny. It's gonna be on YouTube.
Is it really?
I just put them on YouTube because I can't get them to upload any other way. Let me think of another way that we can stretch it out.
It's funny that it'll be on YouTube.
I usually don't have this problem. There's only so much to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your family history. Okay, so you said that you have a family history of people who have used substances.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about who they are and their substance of choice too?
Yeah, my dad, he started off drinking a lot when he was in the military. So he drank quite a bit, and then he realized that that was an issue, and they told me that it was around the time I was born was when he stopped. And then he didn't drink for a really long time, and actually still doesn't. But he switched to pain medication. Like, he was in significant pain and was prescribed it, but then eventually, like, the one pill wasn't enough and started to increase his use there.
So he's still continuing to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else in your family?
I have an aunt who drinks quite a bit. She drinks daily. And then I also have an uncle who uses opiates as well.
Okay. Has that caused any significant problems in any of their lives?
Yeah. My dad, he's not able to work. It's from his pain, but now he can't take pain pills like he was prescribed, so he's just in pain all the time and has no relief. My uncle, he has a hard time holding down a job. He just is kind of everywhere, lives with my grandma now, and my aunt, she works for a school, but she told me that she hides her liquor out in her car and will go between classes and go drink.
Has she gotten in any trouble for that yet?
No, she said that they don't know, but
it's probably just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Right. So then she'd probably lose her job.
Yeah.
And might have a hard time getting hired on.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do any of your family know about how much you drink?
They know that I used to have an issue with it, but I don't.
In college, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think that they realize how bad it is. Right
well, and
now.
they probably chalked it up to you were just a normal college student,
Yeah.
like you said, and so they're not aware so much of it being something now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see them ever finding out?
I think if my aunt found out, she'd just tell me, like, it's not really a problem, like, it's fine. And then some of them may be like, well, I'm not using hard drugs, so this shouldn't be an issue like it would be to stop drugs. My mom, I think, would be more supportive, and my sister would tell me, like, I can do it.
So do you feel like they would be a good support system for
Yeah.
you? Okay. Well, then maybe that's something we can explore as well. Just who you have to support you other than me. So you said your mom and your sister. That's a great start. So they could be great people to talk to, even about how counseling is going. I would involve them, because the more support you have, the less it feels like it's all on you.
Yeah.
Right? So, because you already feel like a lot's on you.
Right.
So maybe kind of sharing that with them will make it like a team effort and not so much pressure on if you succeed or don't succeed.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can definitely talk to them.
Awesome. Okay, so maybe we could try to include them. Is there anyone else that you feel like is a strong support system for you?
I have another aunt who she'd do anything for me, so I think she'd be a good
Talk to her too.
Yeah.
Great. Any friends?
I have a I have one, but she lives really far away. My other ones around here, they all drink, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the one who lives far away, does she have a problem with
No.
anything? Okay. So worst case scenario, you could send a text, or
Yeah.
you could at least talk to her and say, hey, I'm kind of doing this. I just started counseling. Maybe she could give you like a good pat on the back for that. Just more support. So
Definitely.
maybe she might not be the person that you call if you're like in crisis, or like you need to talk to her right away, but she could just be another person to kind of share your journey with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. I think she would.
Yeah, well, perfect. I know that things are a little rough with your husband right now,
Yeah.
but has he been supportive about you coming to counseling?
Yeah, he was really happy when I told him I was coming.
Okay.
He's ready for me to get help. He said he just wants me back to myself, so.
Okay, so good. So he wasn't like shaming you or anything for asking for help?
Nope.
Okay, good. So do you think that you could talk to him about how things are going too, or how do you feel about that?
I think that sometimes he might be a little hard on me if things aren't going as well as what he wants them to.
Okay, yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want anything else making you feel like you're failing, because again, setbacks are a part of growing, and I know that I don't know him, but I'm sure he means well, but sometimes people don't know how to be gentle.
Right.
And because he's never experienced these things before, he might not know the right way.
Yeah.
So because of that, it might be more helpful to bring him in sooner rather than later, because it might be good for him to know what he can do to help you and what he could do to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it might be better for him to know those things sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because I think he'll want to help. He just doesn't. I mean, he just wants me back to how I was before, so.
Yeah, and that's understandable, right? I mean, it makes sense why he would feel that way, because this wasn't an issue when you guys first got together, right?
Right.
Okay. So, again, understandable, and he might mean well, but we can mean well all the time and still do things that aren't super helpful if we don't know.
Right.
So, maybe that's something you talk to him
Okay.
over this next week, and then maybe next session we'll see how he feels about it, and we can discuss together when would be a good time for him to come in, because this is about you. It's not about your husband, but I want you to have a good support system with all this, because it's hard. It's really hard, and when you come in here by yourself, it is kind of hard to explain it to everybody else, and sometimes it's nice if you can just bring them in and kind of let them know how it goes, not by yourself. Because I don't want you to feel like you have to keep defending yourself all the time. That gets kind of tiring.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, so I want you to have kind of an ally in that, because that's also kind of my role as a counselor. I'm your ally always, right? It's not that we're best friends or anything like that, but I will always be an ally for you. I want the best for you, and so, and that's why we need to collaborate, because you know it's best for you in a lot of things too.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to throw that out there for you, and know that I'll always back you up when you need it, you know, and I want everything that we do in here to be helpful for you. So please feel free.
That means a lot.
Good. I hope so. Please feel free to tell me if anything is too much, if I'm pushing you too much, or if something didn't work, because that's the only way we're going to keep moving forward, and I want us to have that open and honest relationship together. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So like with the goals, I'm glad that you told me like those are good for now. That's what you feel comfortable with, because pushing you too hard is not what I want for you.
Okay.
I want us to be able to go at a pace that feels okay for you, because again, too high of expectations isn't gonna be what you need.
Right.
So, oh my god. Okay, a couple more minutes. So, with that being said, I just want us to be able to talk, and so for next week we'll just have you discuss with your husband, throw that out there. And if you come in contact with like your mom or any of the people that we have listed off, feel free to kind of talk to them too.
Okay.
Really, the sooner the better with that stuff, because the sooner they can start giving you support.
Yeah.
So, between now and next week, if you talk to any of them, then just kind of let them know what's going on, and they can start giving you the support that you need. And then the journal, however you want to use that, I do definitely want you to start looking at the ways that you can contradict your negative thoughts, automatic thoughts that you have, the main ones that we wrote down. Just because it's always good to start practicing that as much as you can, and you'll find with time it just starts to happen even without the journal there. But at first, it's kind of nice to have another aid with
definitely.
you, to something tangible that you can look at and be like, oh, I'm thinking like this, and I'm starting to feel down. Let me pull this out and give myself some reminders. And if you think of more, just write them down beside it.
Okay.
The more you have, the more you have to combat this type of thing, the better you'll feel.
Okay.
It's not a magic solution. It takes time. It takes practice. It's not gonna solve you feeling down.
Okay.
But it is starting to create these good cognitive patterns, these good thought patterns for you.
Okay.
And usually I do CBT. So what I like to focus on is the thoughts that you have that aren't so helpful to you, kind of putting in those more positive ones, and eventually that starts shaping your behaviors. And it kind of happens more naturally that way. And it's kind of more honest that way. It's a little bit more realistic because you came up with these on your own.
Yeah.
And hopefully as that keeps continuing, we can start working on the drinking, cutting back on that.
Definitely.
You don't have to stop cold turkey, that's not always realistic. So it's just going to be a very gradual thing, and you just tell me how you feel as we go through that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. So again, I do want you to look at those, but writing any extra things is just optional.
Okay.
If you want to try that, that's fine. If you come back and you're like, look, my week's been so busy, I haven't had time, it just hasn't worked out that way, I get that.
Okay.
I get that. I don't want to put any extra things on your plate that aren't realistic.
Yeah.
But I did want to let you know that anything you write in there, it's optional what you share with me.
Okay.
You don't have to share anything with me. Or you can save it for later. Some things might be a little too touchy to get on right now. But as we go on, if there's something that you're like, I think I'm ready to discuss this, we can stop what we're doing in counseling, and you tell me this is what you want to do that day, and we'll do that.
That sounds great.
So you are kind of running this ship. I'm just guiding it.
Okay.
It's kind of how this is working.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm not going to just tell you what all to do. I want you to feel like I'm trying to work myself out of a job, basically.
Okay.
These things I want you to be able to have the tools to take with you when you don't need me anymore. Because I have a lot of hope that you're not going to need me forever.
Awesome.
I definitely believe in this situation. I've dealt with this type of thing before, and I see that you're motivated, and that's definitely a good equation for success. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we can start instilling that hope right away for you, because I don't see there being a lot of big problems with that.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's comforting to hear.
Good, good. So then we'll make sure that we meet weekly. Is that okay with you?
Yep.
Weekly's okay.
Fine.
Okay. And that can always we can start weaning that off as we go. But I always, and you're not different with that. I start off everyone weekly, unless they're coming in for something that's like not that big of a thing, and it's not really impairing their life very much. It's very normal to come in weekly. And we'll just see how we go with that. And if there's a time that you're like, this doesn't really fit in my schedule, how about we do every other week? That's fine.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. Perfect.
Awesome.
So then you can just go out in the front desk and schedule your appointment with the receptionist, and then I'll see you next week.
Awesome.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Perfect. Thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome.